My sister sighed to a stranger. Yeah, I cut the brake lines. See you at her funeral. 2 hours later, if you met my sister Mara at a baby shower or a charity brunch, you'd think she was the kind of person who never misplaced anything. Lip color, names, morals. She carried herself like everything around her was a prop arranged for her comfort. Her laugh was bright and timed. Her apologies were theatrical. She'd hold your elbow when she talked to you, like she was guiding you through a gallery where every painting was her. I've always been the opposite. I'm the person who notices the exits, who keeps receipts, who reads the fine print twice in the room once. That difference used to feel like temperament. Then it started to feel like strategy. I'm 32. I manage operations for a mid-sized logistics company outside Pittsburgh. It's the kind of job where you learn to keep your tone even when everything is on fire, because panic is contagious and calm is leverage. I liked it. I liked being useful. I liked that spreadsheets didn't care who my sister was. After our mother's stroke last fall, calm stopped being a preference and became a requirement. Mom was discharged in October with a cane, 3 new medications, and a doctor's warning delivered with practiced politeness. She should not be living alone. Mara took that sentence like it was a microphone offered to her. She made a show of it in the hospital hallway, palm pressed to her chest. "I'll handle it," she announced, loud enough for the nurse station to hear. "Of course I will." Mara lived 45 minutes away in a townhouse that always smelled like a candle store. She had a remote marketing job, flexible hours, and a boyfriend who appeared mostly in Instagram stories as an arm holding a wine glass. I lived 13 minutes from Mom's house. I had a key. I had a job that started at 6:30 a.m. I had a schedule already built around other people's needs. So when we stood in Mom's kitchen with the discharge papers spread out like a map, it made sense when Mara turned to me. "You can just stay here," she said sweetly, "for a little while. You're closer, and Mom needs routine." Mom sat at the table, quiet, the left side of her mouth still not fully cooperating. Her eyes moved between us. I didn't correct Mara's framing. I didn't say, "I already do the grocery runs. I already refill her pill organizer. I already drive her to PT." I didn't say, "You're not offering, you're assigning." I just nodded. "Okay," I said. "We'll do it that way." Mara smiled like she'd won something. For the first 2 weeks, she visited twice. Both times she arrived with pastries and took photos with Mom for her social feeds, careful to angle the cane out of frame. "Look at you, Mama," she cooed while adjusting the throw blanket. "So strong." Then she'd drift into the living room, sit on the couch, and talk to me like I was staff. "Make sure she drinks water. Don't let her watch stressful stuff. And you should really keep her away from salt." I kept my face neutral because I'd learned early that disagreeing with Mara didn't create resolution. It created performance. At Thanksgiving, Mara hosted. She insisted. She said it would lift Mom's spirits. She also said she'd arranged a small, intimate dinner, which turned out to be 14 people, 2 ring lights, and a place-setting card that spelled my name wrong. Mara's townhouse was staged within an inch of its life, white pumpkins on the stairs, a sign in the entryway that said "Gather" in cursive wood, the scent of cinnamon so heavy it sat in your throat. Mom sat at the end of the table, near the bathroom, as I'd requested. She was tired and quiet, but upright. I'd helped her dress that morning. Soft sweater, slacks with an elastic waistband, her favorite pearl earrings because they made her feel like herself. Mara floated between guests with a wine glass she barely drank from. Every so often she'd touch my shoulder as she passed, that same guiding hand. When dinner started, she stood with her glass raised. "I just want to say," she began, eyes shining in a way that looked convincing if you didn't know her, "how grateful I am for family." A few people murmured in agreement. "And especially," she continued, turning toward me, "for my sister who has been helping." The pause before helping landed like a thumb pressed into a bruise. Mara's friends chuckled politely, like they'd been cued. Our aunt laughed too loudly. My uncle stared at his plate. Mara smiled wider. "Because I don't know how she does it. Honestly, she's always been the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who doesn't have much else going on." I felt heat rise behind my ears. Not anger exactly, something colder. I looked down at my hands. I was holding a fork. My grip was steady. Mom's gaze flicked to me, then to Mara, then back, her brow furrowed, the way it did when she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words fast enough. Mara leaned in toward me, still smiling, still performing for the table. "You know I'm kidding," she murmured, low enough that only I could hear. "Don't be sensitive." I didn't react, not because it didn't matter, but because reacting was what she wanted. A sharp reply, a flash of emotion, something she could use to make me the problem. Instead, I placed my fork down neatly beside my plate. "Excuse me," I said calmly. I stood, walked to the kitchen, and began clearing dishes. Quietly, methodically. I didn't slam anything. I didn't ask for help, I just moved, letting the clink of plates cover what I was choosing. Mara followed after a minute, her heels clicking. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. "You're so intense," she said, like we were talking about a weather pattern. "Everyone's having a nice time." "I'm fine," I said. She tilted her head. "You always do that. Do what?" "Act like you're above it," she said. "Like you're some saint just because you're camping at Mom's." I rinsed a serving spoon, watching the water run clear. "I'm not camping. I live there right now." "Because I let you," she said casually. I turned the water off. I dried my hands with a towel. Slow. "You didn't let me." We agreed. Mara's eyes sharpened, then softened again into charm. "Okay, sure. Whatever you need to tell yourself." She glanced toward the dining room, making sure her audience couldn't hear. "Listen," she said, lowering her voice. "We should talk about the house." There it was. Not Mom, not care. The asset underneath everything. Mom's house was a modest 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. She'd lived there for 35 years. It was paid off. It was also the only thing Mara had ever spoken about with hunger in her voice. "I'm not discussing that right now," I said. Mara laughed under her breath. "Why? Because you think you're moving in permanently?" "I'm staying while she recovers," I said. "That's it." Mara's smile tightened. "You know what I think? I think you're getting comfortable, and you're going to start acting like it's yours." I picked up the next dish, placed it in the sink. "Mara," I said evenly, "Mom is in the other room. She can't hear us," Mara snapped, then caught herself and smoothed her expression. "I'm just being practical. We need to plan. If anything happens," I repeated, not as a question. Mara blinked. "Don't be weird." I wiped the counter, slow circles. My voice stayed level. "Mom is alive," I said. "She's recovering. She gets to decide what happens to her house." Mara's eyes rolled. "Of course. But you know how Mom is. She gets sentimental. She'll say whatever makes her feel like she's not a burden." That word again, used like a tool. I didn't argue. I didn't defend Mom. I didn't give Mara the satisfaction of watching me protect something she was poking at on purpose. Instead, I looked at Mara and said, "Do you have Mom's updated medication list?" Mara stared, thrown off by the shift. "What? The list?" I repeated. The neurologist added something. "I want to make sure we're both working from the same information." Mara scoffed. "I don't have it." "Okay," I said. "Then I'll handle it." Her face flickered, annoyance slipping through the polish. "You always talk like I'm incompetent." I met her eyes. "I'm talking about a medication list." Mara pushed off the counter. "Whatever. Don't make this into a thing." She walked back into the dining room, the performance mask sliding back into place before she even reached the table. I followed a minute later, carrying a stack of plates, smiling politely when someone thanked me. That night, after we got Mom back to her house, I helped her change into pajamas and set a glass of water on her bedside table. I double-checked her pill organizer, set the baby monitor we'd been using so I could hear her if she fell during the night, and then went into the guest room. I sat on the edge of the bed with my phone in my hand, screen dimmed. There was a text from Mara, sent 10 minutes after we'd left her house. "You embarrassed me tonight. You could at least pretend you're grateful." I stared at it for a long moment. Then I took a screenshot, not because I planned to use it, not yet. Because over the years, I'd learned something simple. Mara lived in the moment. She spoke like everything disappeared after it was said. I didn't. I opened a note on my phone and typed a header. "Mara, timeline." Under it, I wrote November 23rd, 2025 to Thanksgiving. Helping comment in front of guests. Private convo about Mom's house. Text afterward, "You embarrassed me." Screenshot saved. I saved the note. I set my phone down. I didn't cry. I didn't rage text back. I didn't call anyone. I went into the bathroom, washed my face, and turned off the light. Because this wasn't new. Not really. It was just clearer. 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning in early December, I walked out to my car at 5:50 a.m. The air was sharp and metallic. There was frost on the windshield. The neighborhood was quiet except for the distant hum of the highway. I opened the driver's door, tossed my bag into the passenger seat, and slid behind the wheel. Before I started the engine, my phone buzzed with a notification. A voicemail transcript preview from an unknown number. I didn't recognize the area code. The first line of the transcript made my fingers still on the steering wheel. "Hi, you don't know me, but I think you should hear what your sister said." I didn't start the car. I just sat there, breathing evenly, staring at the screen while the cold seeped through the glass. Then I pressed play. The voicemail was 2 minutes and 17 seconds long. I listened to it twice before I moved. The man's voice was careful, like he'd rehearsed honesty. "My name is Aaron," he said. "I work at the Quick Stop on Route 19. Your sister was there last night. She was talking to someone at the counter, my coworker. And she laughed and said something about cutting brake lines. She said it like a joke. But then she said your name. And she said it again. I didn't think it was funny. I asked her what she meant, and she said, 'Relax, see you at her funeral.'" There was a pause, the sound of a door opening, footsteps. "I don't know your family," he continued. "I don't know if she was serious, but I wrote your license plate number down because she'd just been outside smoking near the pumps and I saw the car. I looked it up on Facebook. If this is nothing, I'm sorry. But if it's something, I didn't want to be the guy who ignored it." The voicemail ended. I didn't feel panic. I felt a kind of narrowing, like my focus had been pulled through a funnel. I checked the timestamp. The voicemail was left at 11:42 p.m. the night before. I was supposed to be on the highway by 6. Instead, I turned the key just enough to unlock the steering wheel and tested the brake pedal with my foot. It went down farther than it should have. I stopped. I pressed it again. Slower this time. It sank. I didn't drive anywhere. I got out of the car and crouched near the front tire. I don't know much about cars beyond routine maintenance, but I know what's supposed to be there. I also know what's not. The brake line on the driver's side looked wet. I stood up carefully, like sudden movement might make the situation worse. I went back inside, locked the door, and called my boss. "I'm not coming in," I said. "Car issue." "No problem," he replied. "Keep me posted." I called a tow service I'd used once before. When the dispatcher asked where the car was located, I gave the address and added, "Please send someone who can document damage." There was a pause. "Okay," she said. While I waited, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table. I didn't text Mara. I didn't call her. I didn't warn her. I opened a folder I kept for Mom's medical paperwork and created a new subfolder. Vehicle, deck inside it, I saved the voicemail file, renamed with date and time. I opened my Notes app and added a new entry under Mara's timeline. December 5th, 2025 to 11:42 p.m. Voicemail from Aaron, Quick Stop Route 19. Claims Mara said she cut brake lines and referenced my funeral. Audio saved. I didn't add speculation. I didn't add emotion. When the tow truck arrived, the driver was a woman in her 40s with oil-stained gloves and a calm face. "I'm going to take pictures before I touch anything," she said, matter of fact. "That okay?" "Yes," I said. She photographed the undercarriage, zoomed in on the brake line, and showed me the screen. "That's not where," she said. "That's deliberate." I nodded. "Can you put that in writing?" She did. Printed report, photos attached, time-stamped. I thanked her. I watched my car disappear down the street on the back of the truck. Inside, Mom sat at the kitchen table with her coffee, watching me with concern she couldn't fully articulate. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I'll be home today." She smiled, relieved. I made her breakfast. I sat with her while she ate. I waited until she went to her afternoon PT session before I made the next call. I dialed the Quick Stop. The manager transferred me to Aaron. He sounded surprised, but not defensive. "I'm glad you called," he said. I wasn't sure if I should have. "You did the right thing," I said. "Can you tell me exactly what happened?" He did. Times, words, where Mara stood, what she was wearing, the tone she used when she laughed. I asked if she was serious, he said, and she said, "Don't worry, it's family stuff." I asked if the store had cameras. "Yes," he said, "inside and out." "Can you preserve the footage from last night?" I asked. He hesitated. "I'd need the manager to authorize release." "I understand," I said. "I'm going to file a report. they may contact you. Okay, he said. I'll tell my manager to save it. I thanked him again. I wrote everything down. I did not file a police report that day, not because I didn't believe what had happened, because timing matters. I needed more than shock. I needed pattern. Mara texted that afternoon. Why didn't you come to work? I didn't respond. An hour later, Mom called, said your car got towed. What happened? I waited until evening. Then I replied, carefully. Brake issue. Getting it fixed, she responded almost immediately. That's scary. Good thing you caught it. I took a screenshot. That night, I slept lightly. I woke once around 2 a.m. to check the doors. Everything was locked. Quiet. The next day, I went to the repair shop. The mechanic walked me through the damage. Clean cut. Intentional, no question. He printed an invoice and a diagnostic report. Do you want me to keep the damaged part? He asked. Yes, I said. Please. He looked at me for a second, then nodded. I brought the damaged brake line home in a labeled bag and placed it in the same folder as the reports. Mara came over that Saturday. She arrived with a plant and a concerned face. Oh my God, she said, hugging me tightly. I heard about the car. That's terrifying. Yeah, I said. She pulled back, studying me. You okay? Yes. She glanced around the house. Mom okay? She's fine. Mara exhaled dramatically. I just keep thinking, what if you hadn't noticed? What if you'd been on the highway? I met her eyes. I noticed. She smiled, relieved. Thank God. We sat in the living room while Mom napped. Mara talked about work, about a new campaign she was leading, about how stressful it was being the responsible one. At one point, she laughed and said, I swear sometimes I feel like I'm holding this whole family together. I didn't contradict her. Before she left, she touched my arm. Hey, she said, you should let me help more. You don't have to do everything. Okay, I said. That night, I added another entry to the timeline. December 7th, 2025 Mara. Visit Dobb, a cell, expressed concern about brakes. Texted earlier, good thing you caught it. Screenshot saved. Over the next 2 weeks, Mara got bolder. She complained in group chats about how exhausted she was coordinating care. She told relatives she was basically managing Mom's recovery, even though she hadn't attended a single appointment. She started pushing again about the house. You know, she said casually during a phone call, Mom keeps saying she doesn't want to be a burden. We should talk about long-term plans. We can, I said. With her. She doesn't need to be involved in everything, Mara replied. It stresses her out. I let the silence stretch. Mara, I said eventually, anything involving her house involves her, she sighed. You're so rigid. I made a note. The final piece came unexpectedly. On December 19th, I received an email from my insurance company confirming receipt of documentation related to suspected third-party interference. Attached was a forwarded message from the repair shop. Customer requested we retain damaged brake line. While removing, technician noted presence of latex residue inconsistent with shop handling. Photos attached latex. I stared at the word until it settled. Mara always wore gloves when she dyed her hair. She'd complained once about fingerprints, about evidence, about how people were so stupid about that stuff. I didn't jump to conclusions. I didn't accuse. I opened my laptop and searched Mara's Instagram stories from the night before the voicemail. She'd posted a selfie at a gas station tagged #late night errands, time-stamped 11:28 p.m. Route 19. I saved it. Then I did one more thing. I requested the quick stop footage through an attorney referral my company used for compliance issues. The request went out formally, with dates and times. On December 22nd, the footage arrived. I watched it alone at the kitchen table. Headphones on, volume low. Mara stood at the counter, laughing, leaning in. The audio wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. Yeah, she said, waving her hand. I cut the brake lines. See you at her funeral. She smiled when she said it. I paused the video. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel rage. I felt finished collecting. I saved the file, labeled it carefully, and added one final line to the timeline. Key receptive obtained. Video evidence with audio. December 4th, 2025. Then I closed the laptop and went to check on my mother, who was humming softly in the living room, folding towels. I sat with her, listening, waiting, because the next part wasn't about proof. It was about where and when to let the truth stand on its own. Mara chose the stage without realizing it. She called 3 days after Christmas, voice bright, momentum already built. "I've been thinking," she said, "we should do something nice for Mom. Something normal. She's been cooped up." I listened. "A New Year's brunch," she continued. "Family only. At my place, low stress. No doctors, no appointments." I pictured her dining table, the lighting, the way she liked to be seen as the daughter who tried. "Okay," I said. She exhaled, satisfied. "Good. I'll invite everyone. I'll handle it." Of course she would. Over the next week, invitations went out, a group text first, then individual follow-ups. She framed it carefully, celebrating Mom's recovery, grateful for family, fresh start for the new year. She asked me to bring Mom early so she can rest before people arrive. She asked me to help set up. She asked me to pick up flowers. I agreed to all of it. In parallel, I prepared. I met with an attorney on December 29th. A quiet office. Frost on the windows. I laid everything out in order, no commentary. The voicemail, the texts, the repair reports, the retained brake line, the video footage. He watched the clip twice, didn't interrupt. "This is serious," he said finally. "Yes," I said. "You understand this is criminal." "Yes." He leaned back. "What are you planning?" "I'm not planning anything," I said. "I'm allowing something to happen." He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. "All right. Here's what I recommend." We discussed sequence, preservation, presence, who needed to be notified, and when. Not to escalate, not to dramatize, to let the facts speak in the right room. By the time I left, I had a slim folder and a clear line I would not cross. I did not tell Mom. I watched her carefully instead. Her strength was coming back in increments. She walked more steadily. She laughed more easily. She still trusted Mara. I wasn't going to take that from her preemptively. Mara texted constantly in the days leading up to brunch. "Can you believe how far Mom's come? I'm so proud of us. This feels like closure." I responded politely. Briefly. Screenshots saved. The morning of January 2nd was clear and cold. I helped Mom dress in the blue sweater she liked. I packed her medications, her cane, an extra scarf. I loaded everything into the rental car I'd been using since mine was still in the shop. When we arrived, Mara was already in motion. Music playing, mimosa glasses lined up, her boyfriend arranging chairs like an assistant. She kissed Mom's cheek, careful not to smudge lipstick. "Look at you," she said. "You're glowing." Mom smiled, genuinely pleased. Mara turned to me. "Kitchen?" I followed her in. She handed me a tray of pastries. "Set those out," she said. "Oh, and can you keep an eye on Mom? Make sure she doesn't overdo it." "I will," I said. She paused, studying my face. "You've been very calm lately." "I usually am." Smile, I guess. Relatives started arriving. Our aunt, 2 cousins, an old family friend. Phones out, coats draped over chairs. Compliments about the spread. Mara worked the room, telling the story she liked best. How scary it was. How she'd stepped up. How she worried constantly. No one corrected her. At one point, she raised her glass. "To resilience," she said, "and to family who shows up." People clinked glasses. Mom looked overwhelmed but happy. I watched Mara carefully. The confidence, the looseness. The way she moved like someone who believed the worst had passed. She caught my eye across the room and smiled. After brunch, she gathered everyone in the living room. "I want to do something special," she announced, "since we're all here." She gestured toward the TV. I made a little slideshow, just memories, nothing heavy. There were murmurs of approval. Phones lowered. Attention focused. This was not part of my plan. I adjusted my position near the doorway. I checked my watch. The attorney had said he'd arrive shortly after noon. Mara dimmed the lights. The slideshow began. Photos of Mom over the years. Birthdays, holidays, vacations. Carefully curated. Music swelling. People smiled. Some wiped their eyes. Halfway through, the doorbell rang. Mara frowned, annoyed at the interruption. Who could that be? "I'll get it," I said. At the door were 2 people. The attorney, as expected, and a uniformed officer beside him. Mara's voice carried from the living room. "Who is it?" I opened the door fully. "They're here to see me." The room went quiet behind me. Mara stepped forward, confusion flashing across her face. "What's going on?" I didn't answer her. I stepped aside to let them in. The officer looked around, taking in the gathering. "Good afternoon," Mara laughed. "Brittle. Is this a joke?" "No," I said. I turned to the attorney. He nodded. "Before we continue," he said calmly, "there is information that needs to be presented to everyone here." Mara's smile faltered. "About what?" I met her eyes. "About something you said," I replied. The room held its breath. Mara opened her mouth to deflect, to charm, to redirect, but nothing came out. The attorney reached into his folder. I felt the quiet settle, the kind that only comes right before something irreversible. And then he said, "We're going to play a recording." I didn't look at my sister. I looked at my mother and waited. The attorney connected his tablet to the television with a single practiced motion. No one spoke. The slideshow froze on a photo of my mother at the beach, wind in her hair, smiling at something off camera. The screen went black. Then the video loaded. Mara's voice filled the room before her face appeared. "Yeah," she said, casual, amused. "I cut the brake lines. See you at her funeral." There was no dramatic gasp, no collective outcry. There was a kind of stunned stillness, like the room itself had stopped moving. The clip played again automatically, security footage looping for clarity. The timestamp sat in the corner. December 4th, 11:31 p.m., Route 19. Mara stood frozen, color draining from her face. Her boyfriend looked at her, then at the screen, then back at her again, as if he were recalculating who she was in real time. "That's not," Mara began, then stopped. The attorney raised a hand, not aggressively, just enough to pause her. "There is more," he said. He didn't editorialize. He didn't accuse. He narrated facts. He played the voicemail from Aaron. The words, "See you at her funeral," landed a second time, this time without Mara's image to hide behind. Then the photographs, the brake lines severed cleanly, the repair report, the technician's statement, the note about latex residue. Each item was shown briefly, enough to be understood, not enough to feel theatrical. The officer stepped forward then, voice calm. "Ma'am," he said to Mara, "do you understand what you're hearing?" Mara shook her head, almost imperceptibly. "This is insane," she said. "She's twisting it." It was a joke. I was venting. No one laughed. Mom sat very still. Her hands rested in her lap. Her eyes were fixed on Mara, not angry, not confused, just searching. The officer nodded once. "You're saying you did not interfere with her vehicle?" Mara swallowed. "Of course not," the attorney spoke again. "We have retained the damaged brake line. We have documentation from the mechanic and the tow operator. We have the video, we have the voicemail, and we have text messages sent after the incident acknowledging the brake failure." He looked at Mara, not unkindly. "You don't need to respond right now," he said, "but this is no longer a private family matter." The officer turned slightly, positioning himself between Mara and the door. "At this point," he said, "I'm going to ask you to step outside with me." Mara laughed again, sharp and disbelieving. "You can't be serious." "I am," he replied. Her boyfriend stepped back from her, hands raised slightly, as if distance itself might protect him. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "I swear I didn't know." Mara looked around the room, searching for support, for someone to step in. No one did. Our aunt stared at the floor. A cousin wiped her hands on her jeans. The family friend had already picked up her coat. Mom stood then, slowly, carefully. "Mara," she said. Mara turned, hope flickering. "Mom, tell them. You know I'd never—" "Stop," Mom said. "It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be." "I don't understand everything that just happened," Mom continued, her voice steady. "But I understand enough." She looked at the officer. "May I sit?" He nodded. I moved a chair closer. She sat, gripping the armrest lightly. Mara started crying then. Real tears this time. "I was just stressed," she said. "Everything was on me. She was taking over." I felt invisible. No one responded. The officer placed his hand lightly on Mara's elbow. "Let's step outside." She didn't resist. She didn't look back. The door closed behind them with a soft final sound. The room stayed quiet for a long moment after. Then Mom looked at me. "Did you know?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "For how long?" "Long enough to be sure." She nodded once. She didn't ask why I hadn't told her sooner. She didn't ask how I'd kept it together. She just said, Thank you for being careful. That was all. The rest unfolded without drama. Mara was charged. Not that day, not in front of everyone. The process was methodical. Evidence reviewed. Statements taken. Decisions made by people whose job it was to make them. Her employer placed her on leave pending investigation. The story didn't go public online, not in the way people imagine. It didn't need to. Family dynamics shifted quietly. Invitations stopped including Mara's name. Conversations changed tone. People became more precise with their words. I moved Mom into a physical therapy program closer to home. I hired help for the afternoons. I adjusted my work schedule. We talked about boundaries, about what she wanted, about the house. She updated her will with a lawyer she chose herself. She didn't tell me the details. She didn't need to. My car was repaired. I drove it again carefully at first, then normally. Mara tried to contact me once through an email sent from a new address. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to the attorney and archived it. Months later, when things were quieter, Mom said to me, "I used to think keeping the peace was the same as love." I washed the dishes while she spoke. The rhythm was familiar. "It isn't," she continued. "Peace comes after truth." I nodded. Yes. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel relieved in a cinematic way. I felt steady, the kind of steady that comes from knowing you didn't rush, didn't scream, didn't destroy yourself trying to be believed. I had waited, and when the truth finally stood up on its own, I didn't have to push it. I just had to make room.